Okay, so we're good to go. Once again, good evening, everybody. And uh, today we have Mr. Amit Pandey and his colleague, Mr. Chinmay, with us to take us through a very, uh, what I feel, a path-breaking and very interesting tool that is En-ROADS. A little bit more about Mr. Amit. He is a serial entrepreneur, and currently his latest venture is Do It Zero, which is an eco action platform. Uh, in terms of qualifications, he's done his BTech from IIT Bombay with mechanical engineering and done his MBA from IIM Bangalore. So a lot of pedigree, and it shows in his profile and all the great work he's done across sectors across the world. And now he is focusing on India, focusing on sustainability because that's where he sees the maximum value. And very glad to have him here, and very glad that Mr. Amit has taken the time to come and take us through En-ROADS. He also happens to be an ambassador for this tool, which is why he's so graciously accepted to be here. So once again, thank you, Amit and Chinmay, for being here, and let's get cracking with En-ROADS.
Thank you very much, Farhan. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thanks to all of you for taking the time on in the evening to kind of attend this session. So, like Ahan said, that I've been a serial entrepreneur for a long time now. Largely, I was focused in the area of insurance, so kind of like insurtech is what I would call. But I would say about 5 to 7 years ago, largely driven by my family's influence. My daughter is a very passionate environmentalist, and so is my wife. So I kind of like got involved into the area of environmental sustainability. And being an engineer and being a analytical and a data-driven kind of like a person, I needed to connect the dots in my own mind. So I started learning about climate science, and then I came across this organization called Climate Interactive, which is a US-based organization. And what they have done is they've partnered with MIT. So it's a joint venture of MIT and this not-for-profit called Climate Interactive. They've taken all of the climate science data and they've put it together in the form of a scenario analysis tool. So that we can have a data-driven conversation around global warming. And that is what this whole tool is called, En-ROADS, which is Energy Rapid Overview and Decision Support. So that is basically the tool. Just a one-line kind of like a definition of what Chinmay and I are working on. Chinmay is my colleague. He's the co-founder and CTO of Do It Zero, and he's going to actually help me with this session. And so what we are basically building is we are building a set of digital tools for companies to be able to engage their employees and customers in eco-friendly action, largely to promote circular economy, so to speak, so recycle and reuse kind of like use cases. And our goal is to drive zero waste, zero pollution, net zero emission, and we have an action bias, so we call it as Do It Zero. So that's the one line definition of our business. With that, I will get started with the session. So the way this is supposed to be actually a very interactive session. So we definitely need the participation of all of you people, and I think the more you participate, the better you'll be able to kind of get out of the tool. Since we have a large group, instead of everybody raising their hand, so what we will do is we'll kind of like do it in three parts, right? So the first part is I would do like a 10-minute kind of like I'll do a lay out the framework, lay out like the stage setting, so to speak. So I will give using a PowerPoint. I will quickly kind of lay out what global warming is, what are the drivers, and how En-ROADS can help. I think that's one aspect. Second is we'll actually get into the tool per se. So we will look at the En-ROADS, and that's when I think I need the participation and input from all of you. And that input, I would appreciate if you guys could give that through the chat room. And that's one of the reasons why I have requested Chinmay to be here, so that he can moderate the chat room and he can kind of like maybe club similar thing that's coming from such a large group and give me that input so that I can show you the impact of that using the tool. So I think that's the second part, which is the interactive part. And third is then we will do a Q&A where you guys can raise hand using Zoom, and then we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. So does that sound like a good plan? So with that, let me get started with the presentation part of it. Ahan, you'll have to allow me to share my screen.
Give me a second. I thought I gave you co-host permissions. Yep, you can
And
go ahead.
Chinmay, you will feel free to interrupt me if you see a lot of things coming up on the chat room. So just monitor the chat room and then direct me in the direction where the audience wants to go. At the end of the day, I'm here to basically talk about things that are going through your mind. Right? We'll talk about En-ROADS, but as this kind of gives you some thoughts and ideas and everything, we will try to address that during this session, or for that matter, later on as well. And it's very heartening to see so many young people really kind of trying to learn more about global warming, trying to kind of pursue you are interested in climate as a potential area for you to kind of engage with. So yeah, I can do that now. Thank you. So this is basically the En-ROADS Climate Workshop, and like I said, the full form of En-ROADS is Energy Rapid Overview and Decision Support. It's a very, very quick way of understanding what are the different drivers of global warming, what are the different solutions we can kind of bring to the table, and what the impact of each of those solutions is going to be. So it's a very, very quick way to kind of understand about global warming. Like I said, the tool has been developed by Climate Interactive in partnership with MIT. So what we will do is, like I said, first we will do the introduction part of it, like in the sense, kind of like lay out the framework of global warming, so to speak. And I know a lot of you must already be aware, so it's kind of like it may be a refresher for some of you, but it may also be an opportunity for some of the people who are just getting started with trying to learn more about global warming. So you'll be able to kind of connect the dots in terms of what this all means, at least from a scientific perspective. And then we'll get into the tool. So let's look at so the science is pretty clear about global warming, and I think that's where we need to kind of begin, because science is there to basically help us find answers, right? So this is a chart I'm sure a lot of you must have already seen many times before. So for the last million years, right, we never had carbon dioxide in the atmosphere more than 300 parts per million, right? So the 300, I would say, would be like the threshold where we never really crossed that. So something really has changed in the last, I would say, 100 years or so, where now currently right now, we have carbon, which is roughly at about 420 parts per million. And back in 1880, and why 1880 is very, very important, right? So from a science perspective, if we take a look at it, we had the Industrial Revolution back in 1700s or so. And that's when we got like the steam engine, so to speak, that came in. And then we had obviously, so we discovered basically the fossil fuel, and we discovered two areas to kind of get the energy. One being the steam engine, where you would burn the coal to be able to kind of get energy. And the second being the internal combustion engine, where you would essentially take petrol or diesel or the gasoline or whatever we want to call, you would basically burn that. So these are the two things. So 1880 by then, I think both these technologies were kind of like in place, and the world had started to kind of adapt to each one of them. But still, from 1880 all the way to 1980, if you take a look at it, carbon dioxide did increase, but not at that rate. It's about, I would say the increase was more like a 16%, going all the way to about 340 or so. But in the last 40 years, right, from 1880 to say 2020 or now to 2024, the level has really shot up, and it has gone up by more than like a 40%. So we are basically now at about 420. And this is obviously very, very alarming, so to speak, and it'll continue to kind of increase, right, if we don't really change some things. So and what happens is, the more we have the carbon dioxide, we know about the greenhouse gas effect, which is essentially kind of like a greenhouse where you have all of these carbon dioxide is there. And carbon dioxide is not the only gas that causes the greenhouse effect. You also have methane, which is very, very important, nitrous dioxide, and what is called as the F gases, which is essentially hydrofluorocarbon, perfluorocarbon, and then there is a SF6 and NF3. So that kind of like a group, basically the fluorinated gases form a part of greenhouse gas emission. The more of these gases are there in the atmosphere, they essentially create like a greenhouse. The sun rays, when they are not able to kind of escape back, and that's basically increasing the temperature of the Earth, right? So that fundamentally is what we have. And you may have some of you who are already into the climate science and learning about it. You know that CO2, and there is something called a CO2 equivalent. CO2e is, you may have seen it in different places. So when you say CO2 equivalent, it's a way of kind of like, it's a uniform way to essentially combine all of the gases and kind of display their global warming potential, right? So what is called the GWP potential. So when you see CO2e, you'll know exactly what it means. It's essentially a collection of all of these gases. How are these gases largely coming into the atmosphere? I think that's very, very important for us to kind of find out. Carbon dioxide largely comes in from burning of fossil fuel, which essentially we are burning coal and we are burning all of the gas and everything. That essentially releases the carbon dioxide. So that's one area. The second area is, as we are doing deforestation and we go ahead and we clear the land for agricultural use, or for that matter for livestock, there's a lot of carbon dioxide. So there is carbon dioxide that's absorbed in the sea, and that's all gets absorbed by the trees. It also gets absorbed by the land. It's there. So when you till the land, when you use that for agriculture, or for that matter for livestock, a lot of the carbon dioxide essentially gets released from there. So that's like the second source. So those are the two areas where we have to kind of focus on. And then obviously you have methane, which is and methane largely comes in from three sources. One essentially being when you're trying to kind of take out the gas from the earth, a lot of methane actually leaks. So if you have seen all the refineries and everything, you see a gas kind of like a little bit of a fire there on top that's burning. That's essentially, you have the natural gas. And this is also what we use for cooking and everything. The second area is anytime when something is decomposing. So landfills are, on one side we say, hey, we are generating all of this trash and we put it in the landfill. So landfills, when things decompose, they also give rise to a lot of methane. So because of landfill, the methane comes out. And third area is the livestock, right? And largely beef, I would say, when they belch. So the more and more, the world is kind of having all of this livestock. That also gives rises to the methane, right? So those are largely the sources, and so those are like the material kind of like gases, so to speak. Like I said, essentially, if you take a look at it from where the emissions are largely coming out, so coal, oil, and gas are the three areas where fundamentally, if we have to do something differently, because that's where all of the emissions are coming out. What all of these emissions in the atmosphere, what they're doing is they're basically increasing the temperature of the surface temperature. And so much so that it's already gone up by 1 degree centigrade, right? So which is significant, right? And and you may all have heard about the fact that 1.5 is what the goal is, and I will kind of get to that, and that was largely decided by the world. So this has been going on for a long time, but I think 2015 was the first time when the world really came in, and while they've been kind of like getting together, but that was the first time when we were able to as a world, as different governments came together, they were able to kind of like set a target saying that we are at a 1. If we don't cross, our threshold should be 1.5, right? So if we can adopt a target, because essentially you get what you measure on, right? So if you have a particular target, so the world really came together in Paris in COP21, that was, I think, and they came up with a target of 1.5. Where we are at right now looks like we will breach 1.5. So, but how much is the key question, and that's going to depend upon what we do between now and over the next, I would say, 10 to 20 years. That will decide where we actually end up kind of like reaching, right? But most likely we are going to go ahead and breach 1.5. So this is the part that I was talking about. As of now, and this is something that helps us understand using En-ROADS, right? So En-ROADS is essentially, if we don't do anything right now, where we are right now, and we let the world run the way we are running, at the end of 2100, the temperature increase is going to be 3.3, right? And this is obviously, that is unacceptable. And like I said, 1.5 is essentially our goal, which we also know that it'll be very, very challenging for the world to kind of meet, depending upon, where we are with the current technology and the current practices and everything. And that's where I think all of you on this call will have an incredible role to play, either as a policymaker, as a part of the government, as a part of the business, as entrepreneurs. There is a lot of opportunity there to be able to make sure that how do we all collectively, we really need all hands on deck to really say, we know we are going to breach 1.5. Is there a way for us to kind of keep this below 2, right? So that's where now I think the fight is largely to make sure that we don't really breach now the 2 mark, given the fact that it looks like most likely we will end up breaching 1.5, right? So that's the goal. And En-ROADS will give us some understanding about how we go about doing this. So, a lot of the people say, because when you take a look at the absolute number, oh, the temperature has gone up by 1 degree, right? So it's in absolute terms, it doesn't really matter. Like you don't really feel the difference, but it's very important to kind of put it in context what each and every degree essentially means. So if you have what would a 3 degree centigrade world would look like, right? So as essentially, if you take a look at it, the Arctic sea ice, the poles, the way we know them, right? The entire ecosystem would change. So we will lose, it'll melt 2 out of every 3 summers, right? So that's one thing. Most important, we are not just, this planet Earth is not just for us, for human beings. There are so many different species, there are so many different animals and others that are there. And we are actually losing them because of the climate change and because of all of the changes that are happening. It's having a significant impact on all of the different species. And we have also seen that so global temperature is one thing that's increasing. And then global temperature essentially changes the climate, right? And climate is basically a function of temperature. It is also a function of precipitation and the wind patterns. So all the 3 put together, because a lot of the people will say, hey, the temperature is increasing, but cold is becoming more colder and warm is becoming more warmer because of the fact that the climate is a very, very complex system, right? It's got various different aspects to it. So the entire ecosystem of the world is getting impacted and it's changing. And that's the reason why we are seeing a lot more of extreme weather, so to speak, right? We are also seeing extreme fire. The fire seasons are getting longer. We are also seeing a lot more of flooding, and the entire ecosystem is basically changing. What does the 4 degree centigrade mean? The biggest thing is going to be your sea levels are going to go ahead and rise significantly all over the place. And that's something using the tool, I will be able to show that. India particularly is going to be severely impacted because the entire the northern India, we largely, all of the rivers that are there, from Ganges to Brahmaputra to the Indus River, and all of them, they largely come in from the Himalayan ecosystem, right? The glacier system in Himalayan. That entire system is basically at risk, right? So India is going to get very, very severely impacted. So is the world. And this is one thing is why global warming is challenging, because it's global, right? So that's the word global in itself means that it's very, very challenging. And that's number one. Number two, why is global warming happening? Because of our prosperity. So it's embedded in prosperity. So the more and more we use the fossil fuel, right, the more it'll rise. So it's, in a way, we have to figure out a different, we want to be prosperous, but we have to figure out a different way to be prosperous. And the third thing, why it makes it very, very challenging, is because we are under a ticking time clock. So try solving anything under a ticking time clock, the pressure is even harder. And this is something where we don't really have that much of time. So we have to basically address this as soon as possible. This is, so the sea level rise, this is just a way of to kind of, show that, you have the Shanghai of today. This is a Shanghai after 3.5 degrees Celsius. Oops. This is your New York of today. This is the New York with, so the shaded areas are the areas that will basically, become underwater. And I will, using the En-ROADS tool, I will also show your map for Mumbai, so that, you can kind of, relate to it at a personal level. So this is like a Wall Street of today, and the entire Wall Street is going to be submerged. This is your London with 4 degrees centigrade of warming. This is Shanghai after 4 degrees centigrade of warming. lot of fire, the fire season will continue to kind of increase. We have already seen that in California. We have seen that in Australia. We have seen this year was typically very, very bad for Canada. I mean, so much so that there were days where in the middle of the afternoon in New York, everything was like as if, there was like a haze around and there was ashes, that came in, right? So this is all happening now as we are going through this. And this is, when we look at the picture of the what you call a fire, so we understand the physical risk. But I think all of you guys have to take a step back to really say, what does this mean, right? What does this mean in a physical risk? But there is also what we call as a transitional or the financial risk. Because if you take a look at it, financial services industry per se is a very, very big part of our entire economy. If a property that exists, right? A property, it exists on the bank's balance sheet as a loan. A property exists in an insurance company's balance sheet as a potential liability if something goes wrong. So on one side, while we've got a lot of physical risk, all of those risks will slowly and steadily kind of like transfer across the entire economic value chain, right? So you're going to have banks that'll get impacted. You have got insurance companies that'll get impacted, and which essentially means all of us are in this. So this can't be just about, hey, is there somewhere in the future. This what's happening is going to fundamentally change the way we know this planet Earth, the way we know business, the way we know commerce. Every aspect of it will change and is susceptible to risk. So what are the scenarios of climate science? So you all may have heard about this called net zero. So net zero per se, when you say it is nothing else but, take a look at like a bathtub, right? So in bathtub, if you're adding water, right? So that's essentially what we are doing to our planet Earth. We are sending all of these greenhouse gases, and they're going up in the air, so to speak. And then we also are removing it, right? So removing, and how do we remove that? Largely, we remove that is with the help of the environment. So trees, like I said, really helps us absorb a lot of the carbon, right? So that's one area. And then there are other newer technologies that are kind of slowly and steadily kind of coming up to be able to absorb. But essentially, the net zero concept is right is that what we emit and what we remove, they should balance out. If we can get to that environment, that's what we call about as net zero emissions, right? So if you can get to a net zero world where what you emit and what you take out essentially needs to kind of like balance out. And if there is a way for us to do this at an individual level, at an organizational level, at a country level, right? At the world level, right? So that's essentially is what we're trying to do. And different folks, different countries, and different companies are all being kind of like made to sign the pledge of saying that by when will you be net zero, right? So that's the whole concept of net zero, as you hear about it and as you read about it. So this chart essentially largely says that one is theory is good, that where we can talk about it, but I think the best form of learning is an experiential learning. So what you experience yourself with a tool, I think that'll actually help you understand the concept better. So with that, this is a very busy chart. So let me just kind of explain, because this is what the tool is. So before I take you guys into the tool, let me let me just explain you how the tool is designed. So the tool is largely designed into three different areas. One is what we call as the energy supply. So how does the world get their energy, right? Like I talked about, you have the traditional ways of getting energy, which is coal and all of the other fossil fuels in terms of oil, natural gas. But now the good news is that we also have other sources of energy, right? So renewable solar is something that is coming up. Wind is something that we have. We have always had the nuclear part of it. Another area of energy that's coming up is hydrogen. There is a lot of promise in hydrogen as well. But at this point in time, hydrogen, the challenge with hydrogen is that while hydrogen per se is a clean fuel, but to be able to get to hydrogen as a fuel, we require a lot of energy, and energy per se comes from fossil fuels. So that's what is called. So you may have also heard of green hydrogen. So can we have hydrogen where to make the hydrogen, we are not using fossil fuels, we are using renewable or wind energy? That is the concept of green hydrogen. So if we can get to a world where we have green hydrogen, I think that's the new technology. So these are essentially, we will look at what the impact of these sources of energy are, right? So that's one area that we have. We always know, we have studied economics, so we know there are ways to kind of incentivize or certain behaviors. So one of the ways that the governments use to be able to kind of drive demand is through taxation, right? So the carbon price, incentive mechanism, either the carbon credits or the price, that's an area. So sources of energy and some of the economic factors that essentially drive our energy supply. So that's one bucket that you want to know, right? That we will take a look at. The second part, which is the middle bucket of the tool, essentially helps you understand how we use energy. And why do we need the energy? The most important element is going from place A to place B. And we are all human beings. We always travel, right? I mean, we have that spirit. We want to go out. We want to see places. We want to visit families. We want to, do our commerce. And so going from place A to place B is very, very important. That's where we use. So transportation is a big need. Second area is where we live, right? We all need power. We need heating. We need some places we need cooling. So that's an area that's where we require a lot of energy. And very, very important aspect is to essentially the energy needs of the world are growing. As we are still a growing world, and we are going to go all the way up to 9 billion people. I mean, I think we are somewhere around 7 billion people or so. And we will add at least a couple of billion people more. And the energy needs of each of those people are going to be high. And it's also not about the fact that as the different people are getting knowledge, they're getting awareness, the expectations and the aspirations of everybody is also growing, right? So there has to also be an economic growth. So these are essentially largely the areas that we will explore and try to see how we use energy. And the third bucket that you have is essentially different other factors that basically drive what we call as the global, or that has an impact on global warming. And largely, one area that we always talk about is the tree plantation, and it's got both sides to it: deforestation as well as afforestation. So what the impact of deforestation, afforestation is, and how important it is, how not important it is. I think those are the areas that we will try to explore. Methane is something that I talked about, which is so both carbon dioxide and methane put together essentially are the two areas that we should try to explore. I think the important thing to know about methane is that global warming potential of methane per se is significantly higher than carbon dioxide. So for the equivalent methane, I think I don't have the exact number per se, but it could be like 60 to 70 times more than the carbon dioxide. So it's the lowest hanging fruit. If you're able to control methane, we are able to very quickly move the needle on global warming front. I think that's one aspect. But I think the good news on methane side is carbon, like how diamonds are forever, right? So that's the way we know carbon, right? Carbon is forever. Whereas the methane is essentially something where the impact of methane over a period of time starts to wane down. So roughly, anywhere between 30 to 40 years or so. Again, I don't have the exact precise number, but at some point, while the methane that has gone in the atmosphere, that kind of like wanes off the impact, whereas the carbon is literally forever. So while quickly, if you want to get like a quick results, I think methane is definitely a low hanging fruit. But if you truly want to solve the the global warming issue, I think we got to have like a holistic focus on our carbon. So does that, so you guys understand this, right? Sources of energy, users of energy, and other factors. So remember these three buckets. And with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop share now. So what I want you guys to do is to take like a few minutes, right? And think about what you guys think, what you could do, or what the country could do, or your company could do to essentially how how you can solve part of it. It could be either in the bucket of how we get our energy, or it could be how we use energy, right? Anything, one or two items. You can try to have not more than 3 suggestions, but maybe one per person. Try to put that. And then what we will do is, and then the third area is essentially afforestation, deforestation. If there are other ways to kind of address this global warming, whatever is your top of the mind thought, go ahead and put that in chat room. And then with the help of my colleague Chinmay, we will try to summarize that and we will try to kind of show the impact of some of those things in using the tool and try to help you guys understand how you guys can use that tool. Does that sound good? So Ahan, how much time should we give it to people?
I think 2 minutes is good time.
Fair
It's
enough.
not
So
much.
yeah, so take a couple of minutes, write that, and then Chinmay, once you start seeing some pictures evolving, then let's just do. And in the meanwhile, I will try to kind of share the tool. I mean, like bring up the tool on the screen. Okay, so your time starts now. Go for it, guys. Thank you.
Amit, one of the questions is over here.
Yeah, go ahead.
That is with respect to how accurate is the climate modeling that is done today. And like if we add X amount of CO2, then how accurately we can predict the sea level rise based on that.
Yeah, I think I think that's a very, very good question. I think so. There are two aspects to it. I think globally, all the models are very sophisticated now, and the most important thing is there is consensus. So this is not something where you have some organizations kind of saying. I think we are at a point where the science is clear, and also the science is universally accepted, right? So I think from that perspective, and now in this day and age of literally the open source world, so to speak, where all information is available to everybody through the internet, people also have access to a variety of different data sources. Coming to En-ROADS particularly, En-ROADS actually uses, while the entire data comes in from MIT, but the data per se is from International Energy Agency. You have an IPCC body, which is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And then you also have all of the US organization, which is Energy Information Administration. So all of the information coming in from these sources has been factored into En-ROADS to basically do the scenario analysis. And so much so that all of the policymakers in the US, right, largely use when they take up any kind of like a job, like a climate related job, the first thing that they do is they kind of like learn about the tool, and they use some of some of these tools to be able to kind of develop the policies that they feel that is going to be effective. To answer your question, the science is clear, science is unified, and I think all of this information is pretty accurate because it's helping us move in the right direction. Does that answer your question? What are the other questions, Chinmay?
Yeah, the other questions are kind of explained in the slides, so we can skip them.
So on the first area, has somebody come up with like a solution or like a proposal, like what we should look at?
Yeah. So we can look at. I will start it. So one of
So
the first.
or you know what? Give a minute or two more, and then let's list down 5 or 6 different themes that are coming out, so that I know them, and then I can also kind of weave a try to connect some of them. So in the meanwhile, let me explain a little bit about, like I said, it's a very interactive kind of like a tool. On the left-hand side, the top chart that you see, this is the sources of energy, right? So look at it this way, if this is a movie, right? So a movie has what? Like a movie has a beginning, middle, and an end, and it has got like a hero or a heroine or like a protagonist or a villain, so to speak. So in this movie, the coal, oil, and gas, right? So the darker color at the bottom, they are the villain, so to speak, or they are like the not so nice, right? They are the villain of the movie. And then the ones that you see, which is essentially, you have the blue, which is which is the green, pink, and the small, the new zero. They are basically the good guys. And the temperature is right now, if you take a look at it, greenhouse gas net emissions, it is going all the way up to about right now, roughly we are at about like a 55 or so gigatons. It's going to go all the way up, closer to 80 ton kind of a thing. And the surface temperature is supposed to go to 3.3 degree. So what would be the ending of the movie, right? How do we want to see this movie end, right? So if you have to say that, if you're writing the script is going to look like the ideal happy ending would be we see this the chocolate, the mustard, and the blue color completely getting shrinking right down to the bottom, right? The green, the pink, and the other all growing. So essentially, we want the bad guys to kind of get wiped out. We want the good guys to kind of take that place. We also want to see the blue line that you have to really bend the curve and come down to a level where it is literally touching the x-axis, which is the zero, which is the net zero emission. And the temperature, the plus 3.3 should ideally would be plus 1.5, but we know we are going to breach it. It should be like plus 2. So that's the end goal that we are going after. If we can get to that together, all of us, all across the world, different startups, different large companies, governments, all put together, that's the happy ending. And we want to see that movie as early as possible. When will that happen? We don't know. Obviously, if the situation continues like this by till 2050 or 2070 or something, India, by the way, has said that by 2070 they would be net zero as a country per se. That's the one that they, after a lot of like cajoling from different governments, that's the one that they put down. I think China's date is about 2060 or so. But different organizations have different goals. I think Microsoft has said that by 2030. And in fact, one of the things that they have said even that by 2050, they will get to a point where all the carbons that they have emitted in the past, they would have absorbed that so that, at some point in 2040s or so, they will be at a point as if they never existed on this planet from a global carbon footprint perspective. So companies not only are setting a net zero target, but they also want to go over and above that to make sure that they address some of their historical, or they try to become net zero from a retroactive perspective as well, right? So that's the happy ending, so to speak. So with that, let's just start looking at into the tool. So Chinmay, what are some of the themes that are coming out? Give me 5 themes that are coming out.
Yeah, so to start with, afforestation is the first one.
Okay.
The second one would be taxing conventional energy.
Sure.
That's like the carbon pricing or something.
Yeah.
The third major one is energy efficiency. A lot of people have pointed it out in different manner, but all of them means adopting a sustainable lifestyle and have being more energy efficient. So that's like I would say the public is voting on that.
Right.
And after that, there are some discrete great ideas, I would say. So like renewable sources of energy like solar, tidal,
Yeah.
that is one option. And I would avoid, someone said bacterial, but I have no idea what that means. But yeah,
I'm sorry, what is that?
bacterial energy. So yeah,
Bacterial energy. Yeah.
okay. Well, we will get into that
Yeah,
further.
fair enough. I mean, I'm sure somebody must have done some research or something. Yeah, go ahead. We will keep that. What
Yeah,
about
adopt plant.
circular economy? Are there things about sustainability
Yeah,
driving
yeah. So
circular?
sustainability, I think it's part of energy efficiency. I'm having,
Sure.
having sustainable practices at individual level. That's one thing. And then it comes as adopting a plant-based lifestyle or vegan
Yes.
lifestyle, which
Yep.
people believe, it is helpful. Apart from that, nuclear power is something which is also suggested. I think that will come in the renewable sources of energy
Right.
bucket, more or
No,
less.
I think nuclear is considered to be its own because nuclear has both the on one side upside, like significant that it's the cleanest form of energy from a carbon footprint perspective, but then there are a lot of concerns around it from a safety perspective. But then there are obviously we'll talk about that. I think this is good. I think so. I have about 7
So
of these themes.
there are a couple of more of them, but I do not want to do injustice to them. So I want to point them out over here. So using ocean as a carbon sink,
Yeah.
increasing alkalinity of it and other things.
Right.
And last one is having an artificial photosynthesis system, like
Right.
doing photosynthesis but using artificial elements.
Right.
So that is something is out there. And also, I would say this is bioengineering. I would say planting phytoplankton in the oceans. That should come in afforestation, but yeah, more or
Yeah,
less.
I think these are very good ideas, very excellent. Thank you very much to everybody for participate. I mean, like for giving all of these, bringing ideas onto the table. Let's take a look at one at a time. I think let's begin with one which is the first one we talked about, afforestation. I think, a lot of the times we feel that, hey, can we plant those trillion trees, right? So there is this whole initiative around the world. Can we plant those trillion trees, right? So that's one thing. Planting trees is very, very important. So I think even before I get into the tool, I'm going to go ahead and make one comment saying we cannot solve global warming by not planting trees, right? So I think that I want you to understand that. So planting trees is super important, right? And not just from a global warming perspective, but there is a kind of like a linked aspect to it, which I will get into, and I will show on the data side. I think one of the to begin with, one of the things that I want to show, which is very, very critical, I think is if you take a look at it right now, we are not only losing the environment, but we are also, with global warming, it's got significant impact onto all of the biodiversity, so to speak. So if you take a look at it currently, right, if we don't do anything, we are going to lose a lot of the species, and there is going to be a big impact onto the overall biodiversity of the world. So that's something which is very, very important. And trees, while it also helps us solve the issue of global warming, but most importantly, they have a big impact on biodiversity, right? So that's the reason why I think it's very important that we have to solve and we have to keep planting those trees. If we did nothing in the world, we just went ahead and um, 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 hmm. if we did nothing, only went ahead and planted all of the trillion trees. If you take a look at it, the temperature went down from 3.3 to 3.2. So just by planting trees alone, we will not be able to solve it. So I think that's one thing that I want you guys to, there are certain things that I want you guys to take away from here is, so this whole thing, planting trees is very important, but planting trees alone, it cannot be the silver bullet for us to do it. And there are a variety of reasons. One is also physically, it's not possible. A mature tree, while it's able to absorb about 21.8 kgs of carbon, but for the maturity to kind of happen, takes a long time. For us to plant 1 million trees, we require close to about 840 million hectares of land, which is roughly the three size of the three Indias put together. So how do you find that much of like the land per se and to actually plant the trees? So tree plantation is a part of the solution, very, very important, but alone is not going to help us solve the problem. So I think that's one thing that we need to understand. And but important area is why we need to plant the trees, because we need to maintain the way of life from a biodiversity perspective, right? So that's why tree plantation is very important. That's the reason why I say tree plantation alone will not solve the global warming, but we cannot solve global warming without tree plantation. So that's something that you all need to really understand. So that's the afforestation part of it. I think linked to afforestation, um, um, somebody talked about the fact that taxing or like a carbon pricing or taxing the carbon. I think that's something which is let's take a look at that. If we really put in a carbon price, like a big carbon price, right, that has a significant impact. So economics always drive that. We are able to very, very quickly bring it down from 3.3 all the way to 2.4. And you see how the blue line curve has been, right? That's exactly what we're trying to see. If you look at it on the colorful chart, you have seen now we have the chocolate, which is the coal and gas, and the natural gas is really shrunk. That's exactly what I was talking about. That's the movie end that we want to see. We want to see all these things, the fossil fuels getting phased out. We want to see the curve bending coming all the way down in terms of net zero, and the temperature going within the range of 1.5 to 2, more closer to 1.5. That's the ending that we want to see. So carbon price per se is a very, very important element. And that's the reason why, if you take a look at it, like the whole system of carbon price, carbon credits, it's trying to push in that direction, trying to essentially lay out, using the principles of economics to try to say, can we control, the demand situation, right? So at the end of the day, what are corporations do, right? So the corporations essentially respond to two things: consumer preferences and government regulations. So how do we solve the global warming? It's like literally a three-legged stool. One is, if individuals essentially say we want to adopt more of a climate-friendly lifestyle, that's going to send a message to the companies. The second is the government has to lay out the right regulatory and the statutory framework, so to speak. On one side, having reporting requirements, taxation, subsidies. Those are the elements that are very important. And then the third thing is the corporations are supposed to kind of take a look at this and essentially work in such a compliant fashion so that they are able to address all of their corporate goals, as well as, most importantly, able to meet the consumer demand. So this is a three-legged stool that'll eventually help us solve global warming. So you have to keep that in mind. So carbon price has a big impact. We can also tax most of the other things, right? So one is the overall carbon price, but individually different things we can tax and depress the demand, right? So if we did that, now you see we have brought it down further, right? So taxation has a big element to it, but this is something, this transition, this is not an easy way. Some of you who are learning about policy framework and everything, while this sounds very good to solve it, by saying, oh, let's go ahead and tax it and tax everything. But imagine you trying to increase tax and the price of petrol in India going up by 20 rupees. There's going to be like a lot of people who are going to revolt that. So there are practical limitations to what you can do on the taxation side, on the policy side. So this is literally like a balloon. It's one of the reasons why this is so challenging is because on one side, while you'll have a policy framework, but it's going to show its ugly head on the other side. So you have to basically keep all of these things in mind and really strike a balance where you can really arrive at an optimum thing which works for everybody. And it's also, all of this transition is phased over a period of time. So you're not surprising and you're not giving anybody like a real shock, right? So that's something that you have to keep in mind. But working,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry,
you're saying
sorry
something?
for that. No, one concern people have raised is about the carbon markets having a reputation of greenwashing concerns. So
Right.
that's a question regarding this topic just coming up.
Right. So I think I think that's a very good concern. I think that's a concern for two things. One is the greenwashing largely is being driven by corporations, and I think there are two motivations for greenwashing. First and foremost is as the consumer preferences are changing, people want to come across, right, more like a climate savvy or a more conscious about climate, where the reality for their current economic considerations, they may not be, there. So I think that's a real concern, right? Because essentially what people are trying to do is they are essentially trying to portray something that they are not, right? So I think that's where regulations can play a big role and essentially do two things. Not really lay out like an incentive for somebody, the incentives have to be, folks have to be incentivized for the right things. And that's why right now, if you take a look at it, people say eco-friendly, they may have one aspect of the product which is eco-friendly, but they will go ahead and kind of like, all over the town and say, hey, we have an eco-friendly product. Whereas having a holistic approach is a much better approach, right? So when we say something is eco-friendly, we have to look at, and at least at Do It Zero, we look at it at 5 different factors. One is obviously the raw material that goes in, the process that gets used to make something eco-friendly, the packaging part of it, how the product gets to the market, and the end of life. So anytime when somebody is trying to say something is eco-friendly, you got to keep all of these factors or all of these 5 factors in mind to be able to take a holistic approach. But I think the concern that somebody has brought to the table is a very valid concern, and with transparency, with more information, with more maturity, hopefully we'll be able to address it. And obviously we should not be incentivizing the wrong behavior, right? So I think that's one way to address this. Any other point, Chinmay? Otherwise, I move to the third one.
You can move ahead.
Okay. So the third thing area that we looked at was the efficiency. I think efficiency is one area. Energy efficiency is a very, very important area, because here, if you take a look at it this way, you want an air-conditioned room, right? That's your need, but you don't really care whether, as long as you're getting your all the positive benefits, but without any of the downside. So that if you ask me, is going to create a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities in terms of how do we get to the end goal, and how do we try to drive efficiency across the system, and it's there across the entire different areas that folks can do. And it's, if you take a look at it, if we try to make what you call it has an impact, not a severe impact, not as much like as we are able to the supply side. See, one of the reasons why on the user side, right, when we use energy, you're not going to see a sharp decrease in temperature, because at the end of the day, typically what happens is, if you're not controlling the supply side, if you're just strictly focusing on the demand side, if the demand of one type of energy goes down, it very quickly gets replaced by other sources. And at this point, for the foreseeable future, we will have to depend upon fossil fuel. So in fact, right now people say, oh, just go ahead and ban everything. I think that's also not the solution. Like I said, there has to be a transition kind of a thing. So while on the supply side, very quickly you will see the temperature drop, whereas on the user side, it is gradual, it is shift, it is more holistic. It's something where there is one solution alone will not get you. It's a combination of multiple policy frameworks or multiple policy areas that will have to come together to kind of help you do that. So efficiency is something very important. Then we talked about renewables. I think renewables is one area where, as much as possible, majority of the work needs to be done, and that'll obviously have a big impact. Another area is nuclear. I think we talked about nuclear, and I think it's important that we talk about nuclear. Nuclear per se is a very clean fuel from a carbon footprint perspective. But I think the concerns are nuclear being a radioactive thing is and Chernobyl and the world per se has not had a good experience with nuclear in terms of safety. That's why a lot of the times the governments essentially it gets shot down. No government wants nuclear plants in their backyard. So even that becomes a little bit of a concern in terms of where do you locate nuclear thing. So newer ways of managing nuclear energy is coming up. In fact, there's a startup organization, very large funded startup organization, I think funded by Bill Gates or so. They are looking at nuclear, but they're looking at underground nuclear. Can we have nuclear plants that are completely underground so that we minimize the risk on ground, potential mishap risk, and still get the benefit of nuclear? I think one country that relies a lot onto nuclear is France. France has energy requirement is a significant, and I think more than 50% of their energy needs are fulfilled by nuclear. So I think nuclear is also a good area and has a very very it's a tool that could be used as well. So that is something that I would say about the nuclear renewables and part. I think let's talk a little bit about lifestyle areas. I think somebody kind of like talked about vegan lifestyle, right? Significant impact. I don't know how many of you have seen on Netflix. There are many movies actually on environment related movies. So since I nurture a lot of interest, I actually watch a lot of these movies. In fact, very recently I also saw a movie called You Are What You Eat, right? Kind of a thing. I think it's a limited series. It's got I think 4 episodes. I would definitely recommend it to somebody who's into vegan diet or who's considering like a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, to really look at what the benefits are. And but big huge impact of veg diet onto carbon onto global warming. So, and if you said that, Amit, while we understand the vegan diet and everything, how can we look at, in a quantitative fashion using this tool, what the impact is going to be? So if you take a look at the veg diet, what it does is, if you're not on, one of the reasons why we have a lot of deforestation is, you need land for agriculture, right? But more than that, we need land for livestock, for grazing and everything. And particularly more so in countries like Brazil, US, and other places where there's a lot of beef consumption, right? So beef is a it requires, it's a big animal. It eats a lot. You require a lot of water. And so for 1 pound of beef, you require like lots and lots of resources. So there's a lot of deforestation that's happening. So the first thing what will happen is, you're going to have less deforestation, right? I think that's one area where the veg diet, you will see the impact. The second area that you will see is that, like I was telling you about, one source of methane is all of these livestock. So all of these beef and the cows and everything, when they belch a lot of methane out there. So methane will also come down. And then when you take a look at a meat-based diet, one of the challenges of a meat-based diet is, how do you take meat from one point to the second point? How do you bring it from the farm to the table, right? So because meat is something that goes bad very quickly, you have to invest a lot into a cold chain. So your cold chain infrastructure has to be all there. So we're going to see significant energy efficiency, because you don't really require that much of cold chain. So a significant benefit of a veg diet that you will see, if you take a look at 3.3 to 2.7, now we don't know exact number is there, but directionally it all makes sense, right? So veg diet has got a significant impact. In fact, one of the areas where if somebody says that, how can I personally change? And it's also not necessary that, hey, you go all the extreme and say, hey, you eat meat, every day, and you kind of like drop it. Maybe one can reduce that, right? So, or reduce it by 1 day or 2 day. So, slowly and steadily, people can kind of, bring in, some lifestyle change, whatever works for you. See, there's never that, oh, it's all like, oh, we have to all follow a strict thing. Whatever one is doing, we have to become conscious in our environmental choice. Whatever we are doing, whatever actions we are taking, we have to just kind of like think through, consciously saying that, what is the impact of this on the environment? So big impact of so-called veg diet, so to speak. I think one thing that I have here, which is the last one, is circular economy, right? So sustainable living, circular economy is something which is very important. So let's look at it this, so while we understand circular economy as a concept, let's kind of like break it down to say what aspect of this tool, right, where we have these three things, the circular economy will impact. The first and foremost thing with the circular economy is plastic recycling. If I'm recycling a lot of my plastic, where would I, on the supply side, what would be the impact? I would not need that much of oil, right? So my oil consumption is going to go ahead, and I would not need that much of oil, because we all know that plastics are derived out of oil. So that's one area. If we take a look at it, other areas, one more area where we use a lot of material is timber and wood, right? So is there a way for us to kind of like recycle more and more of all of the other products or so, or come up with other areas where we are using, maybe at the end of the life, furniture, we make it into a sawdust, we make panel boards out of that, really have the circular. So deforestation is going to come down. Biggest impact of circular economy is if you do it zero, right? Zero waste to landfill, right? So if we send less waste to landfill, zero waste to landfill, and we compost more, and so our landfill is essentially coming down. And one of the sources of methane is essentially landfill, right? So methane will also come down. So if you take a look at it, again, a big impact of the circular economy. So if you can, on the behavioral side, if you can drive veg diet, we can drive circular economy, right? We can try to plant more trees, right? We can try to drive more efficiency. Transportation, we try to make it more electrified. We drive efficiency in building and other areas, right? We also support more and more of renewables, right? We we electrify the other. One of the person had talked about photosynthesis in the like a technical photosynthesis or something, like, which is essentially what is called as a direct air capture, right? So DAC is a new technology that's coming up, which is essentially, so DAC technology is already there, right? So which is essentially we can go ahead and we can suck carbon from air. But I think the problem with DAC and some of these technologies is right now, these are still at a very, very concept stage. So two things. One challenge is the energy required per se, right, is, your carbon footprint of the energy that you will use, right, to kind of drive DAC is more than the carbon that you'll absorb from the air. So I think that has to kind of like balance out. And second is, can some of these things really, the per unit cost, come down to a level where these things can scale? I think that's there. But nevertheless, there are pilot plants across the world that are doing what somebody talked about, which is the assisted photosynthesis, so to speak, or direct air capture, and that's the technological revolution that we will see. And if we combine this with, like a zero hydrogen or something like that, right now we are talking. So take a look at it like a 1.9 degree. We look at, so we are getting closer to the happy ending that we wanted. Like, right, the curve is kind of
Amit, a
like
quick
bent.
question.
Yeah,
A
go ahead.
quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where is the absorbed carbon in the DAC process dumped actually?
I'm sorry.
In the DAC process, artificial photosynthesis or carbon capture, you capture the carbon. The question is, where do you actually store that carbon?
Very good question. Excellent question. I'm glad that you asked. So basically, what happens is essentially you try to take the carbon that you have absorbed, right? You can use that carbon, but I don't think we will be able to use all the carbon that we absorb from the earth. So where is the carbon supposed to reside, right? The carbon for millions of years was resided under the ground, right? So there was no fossil fuel 200 years ago, but that does not mean that fossil fuel was not there in the world, right? So it was all under the ground. So when you absorb carbon, you try to essentially put it back into the ground. So what people do is you mineralize that, you turn it back into like a mineralized kind of like a version, and then you send that back. And in fact, one of the best companies that will evolve, and in fact, some of the companies are already trying to morph what the future of the oil industry will be. You have a lot of oil wells and others, right? Can those same places be used to kind of or the oil companies of today, can they morph into oil companies that'll basically suck the carbon out, right, or trap the carbon and put it back into the earth? Occidental, which is a one company where has got a very, very capture carbon CCS program, carbon capture and storage. So you may have heard of this CCS, kind of like a technology that's coming up. That is essentially carbon capture and storage. So you can do two ways to carbon capture. Right now, the carbon capture is essentially from industrial process, right? So when you make steel and when you make cement, one of the byproducts is CO2. So while the burning of fossil fuel is important, but if we want steel and we want cement, right, the byproduct is carbon dioxide. So there are a lot of technologies that are coming up, which essentially traps that carbon instead of the carbon getting released from the smokestack. Can that be captured? Can that be mineralized? And can that be put back into the ground, right? So that's the part, which is the CCS technology that's coming up. To answer your question, the best place to put the carbon back is back into the earth, right? And there are various technologies that are coming up. Look at it this way. We should move to a new way of life with more than 80% of our coal deposits still under the ground and more than 50% of our oil deposits still under the earth, right? So the world moved beyond Stone Age, not because we ran out of stones, but the human mind, we were able to develop a better way of life, right? We were able to think beyond stones. The same mentality we have to apply and say, can we move out of the oil and the fossil fuels with all of these things where they are supposed to be, where the God wanted them to be, inside the earth? And then we become so smart that we figure out a way of life to kind of live without them. That's where we need the power of all of this group, right? The 40 of you or the 50 of you, that's where you guys have to be working and thinking about how do we move to a better way of life and leave these things under the ground. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, that
So
one
I
is
have
the
I have also conveyed kind of like what we want to convey. I think one thing which is important is the population we know is going to grow, right? We also want to make sure that we also drive economic growth because while uh, uh, we have a lot of youngsters that are coming up. We don't want to be saying, hey, now moving to a sustainable lifestyle does not really mean that you cut short on some of your conveniences of life. So we have to also, through using our entrepreneurial skills and others, we have to figure out that we can still prosper as a word, but still move towards more of a sustainable lifestyle, right? So that we are we can all live like in harmony with the nature and with each other, right? I think that's something that we'll have to do. Obviously, reduction of coal a little bit is going to be important, right? Um, a bit of carbon price probably we would need initially to kind of bring it down, but once it starts to kind of like sustain, we will be able to get to our desired kind of like a world, so to speak. So that's where we are at right now. Um, 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 so like I said, there is no silver bullet per se. You require many different factors. You have to basically literally work on every front. Everybody has to be involved. We have to work on all three fronts, right? In terms of the supply side, the user side, as well as other factors of afforestation, deforestation, and other places. I think one thing that I had talked about, which is essentially I had said that I will show you guys the flood risk map for Mumbai, right? So let me just go ahead and show that. So at the end of 2100, these are the areas, this is the flood risk map of Mumbai. I think Navi Mumbai is going to be significantly impacted if we don't do much. So this is global, guys. This is every aspect of, if we don't do anything, I mean, this is getting impacted. This is not a problem that's happening somewhere. The whole of Vashi is going to be impacted. So let me, and obviously all of this tool is essentially on the web, so to speak. And you guys can kind of play around. And I have also there's an exercise that so let me just like a stop share right now, because also we are getting to how much time do we have, Ahan? We
Hey, we did have a short assignment after the session, but I think the time with you will be more valuable, so we can go ahead and eat into the next 10-15 minutes. No problem.
Okay. So there is an assignment that I had shared with Ahan. So Ahan, you will share that with everybody, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let me just show what that assignment is. And it'll be great. This is more for your self-learning. And if you want to do a peer review, you can do a peer review. You can have that assignment be reviewed by one of your friends or so. I don't know what the process is, Ahan, that you follow, but I think it's these tools are there more for self-learning. So let me just show that what that assignment is all about. So this is what the assignment is. Essentially, you have to basically go to En-ROADS, and this is all open source. If you do, like if you go onto the web and then type En-ROADS, and you'll be able to go ahead and go to the simulator, so to speak. So what you need to do is just play around with a little bit of the tool. Think of 3 policies. It says 3 to 5. You can think of 5 or you can think of more, how much time you want to spend. But I would say recommend at least think of 3 things and maybe slightly different from the idea that you gave, right? So think about 3 to 5 different policies or different ideas that you have that you think that the world should implement. in terms of to address the global warming? I think that's one aspect. That's the first question that you have. Minimum 3, more up to 5 if you want to go do that. But 3 you should definitely try to do. Look in terms, give some thought to what will make it work or what would make it feasible, right? How would it impact or what actions and priorities different people will have to take, right? So either in terms of the business or your local civic government, federal government, what public will have to do, what think tanks will have to do. So anybody, how would that idea can, will come to life? I think give some thought around that and write for each of them. So you have minimum 3 ideas. You're going to go ahead and spend some time kind of thinking about that. Right now, while long term we know with these ideas, the earth will benefit. But in the short term, sometimes you also have some, some losers, so to speak, right? Because these are all transition, right? So there may be, oil and gas, the industry that we say has to shrink. The employee is one of the largest employers of people in the world, right? So it's an economic source of earning for a lot of people on this planet, right? I mean, and like I said, not just the direct employers. You look at, it gets the maximum amount of investment, right? So we are talking about again banks and insurance companies and distribution companies. There are so many people who are involved. So think very holistically for your idea. Who are going to be the winners? Who are going to be the losers, right? And if you want, you can even do short term, long term, so that this will help you start to kind of understand what the scale of the problem is and how this will get impacted. I think that's something which is very, very important. That's the third aspect of it, the winners and the losers. The fourth is the surprises. And for some of you, I'm sure there must be an aha moment, right? Because we hear about these things. My goal with this short workshop is so that whatever you hear about it, COP, 15, Paris Agreement, 1.5, net zero, what we get, tree plantation, trillion trees. I try to bring all that stuff, vegan diet, everything. So in a short 1.5 hours, I try to bring that so that, and you guys are all smart guys. So once the dots get connected, you guys will be able to kind of, build on top of that and establish all of your thought process. But so put down some of the surprises or some things that you really learned and that, the insights that you got. And the last being the hope, right? So what trends in the world give you hope that your proposals are possible? And like I said, there is one thing that I had learned and which has actually helped me as an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for about 20 years, and you know how challenging entrepreneur life is, right? For those of you who have, who have learned about it or who are planning to get into it or already doing it, there is one thing that I had learned, which really, it still stays with me. And I use that as and when I'm at the crossroads for making a decision. Let your choices, right, be driven by your hope as opposed to your fear. So at any given point in time, we have to be hopeful and we have to look into the best. We have to look into what is possible as opposed to what is not possible. We don't need to be like a live in a fool's paradise. We have to be realistically, we have to be there, but our choices, let they be driven by our hope. So what makes you hopeful? I think it'll be very, very important to kind of, talk about the hope part of it. And then personal responsibility. Where does your personal responsibility come? What kind of personal action that you are willing to kind of commit to be able to get to be able to kind of support and add to this, right? So that's the assignment. Ahan will share that. I would since it's a, if it was a small group of about 4 or 5 people, I would have loved to share, kind of see what you guys, are putting down. But like I would, whatever the process Ahan has got going, whether, I don't know whether you have for these assignments, follow that process. If you have thoughts and everything, you want to kind of engage with me, I'm there on LinkedIn. Feel free to engage with me, using LinkedIn as a platform, so to speak, public platform. And yeah, so I think that would be good. So that's the assignment. It would be good for you guys to look into it and do this at your convenience. And it shouldn't take more than 5 to 7 hours, you had said, Ahan?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it should be fine. I think that time-wise also it's not a lot of commitment.
Yeah, I think this shouldn't take as much time as there may.
Right.
2-3 hour commitment should be
more than enough. I would think so. And like I said, I mean, the tool is very, very vast. So some of you, I mean, literally, it's a product of like the whole scientific community of the world, so to speak. So there are people who have done on one aspect of the tool, they've done PhDs, right? So anybody who's more interested in climate science, who want to go behind the tool and all of that stuff, can like I said, it's all open source. It's all there on the web at your convenience. You can go to any level of depth. But my objective was to basically make you aware and kind of connect the dots as much as possible in your mind. So with that, I think I'm going to close. I think there are still about 5 or 10 minutes, and more than happy to answer a few burning questions if somebody has got. And I'm going to let
One
Han.
question is about the tool. The person wants to see the cost of electricity and energy gaps, like how these things vary, or when we are changing the energy prices and all.
All in the tool, if you go, you can see the tool. Every tool, if you take a look at it, the part, right? There is a I button, which has got all the complete. It's a complete open source. Every formula, every data, everything is there. So you have all sources and everything. So whatever interests you, whatever you guys want to see, go to that area, go to that section, click on the I. You can change multiple parameters, right? So everything that you can think of. This is one of the most robust tool, and very quickly it will help you understand. So all sources, all data, all formulas, everything is open source. This is the beauty. Global warming, nobody wants to look. It's in the interest, of an organization like Climate Interactive to kind of make sure that the entire world gets to see this tool and experience it. So there is no nothing is hidden here, right? There's no like a proprietary thing. They're not making money out of it, right? The objective is to. So when I signed up to be an ambassador, I wasn't doing this because I believed in it. I saw the problem. My daughter is a passionate environmentalist. She was the president of SEED, which is the Students for Ecological and Environmental Development. And I learned more and more about it. And they changed my behavior, right? Like in the sense, they would check me and they would point out when I was not trying to be environmental friendly. So it came out of my own thing. So I first became a climate ambassador, and then I thought that, hey, this is an area that really appeals to my heart. How can I combine my entrepreneurial skills and combine my family's passion for environment to really do something that I'll feel good about, right? And that I really feel engaged about, that I feel passionate about. That's what we're trying to do. So this is all open source. To the extent that you guys want to go learn about it, all data sources are all given. You have to just kind of go and spend time and learn about it. Does that answer your question? Any other question? If I'm also okay, Chinmay, if 1 or 2 people want to ask question by raising their hand. Up to 3 questions we can take, because I would love to hear the voice of some of the people. Not that I don't like your voice. I can talk to you all day long. You're my colleague.
You guys can
but I would
raise your
love
hand.
love to get 1 or 2 direct questions from somebody, and do this. Come onto the screen, say who you are, where you are, what you're studying, right? What got you to Climate Ninja? 2 or 3 of you, 3 of you up to, and what is your question, or just a comment, or just an observation. I want to just get to hear, a few more voices on this call.
Yeah, who will raise the hand first?
Yeah, go ahead. Raise your hand, and then we'll just pick. If there are more number of hands, if there's only one, then
we can see 22 people over here, and are they hearing us?
Nobody has any thoughts or comments, strong opinions, questions?
Or just share your name and where you are and what brought you to Climate Ninja program. I mean, if you want to answer that, I'm sure you must have given it some thought to decide to spend so much of your time learning about this, right? So just share a little bit of your thoughts. We just want to get to hear some of you.
Hi, can I come forward first?
Yes, please go in. Akansha, right?
Yes. Hi, I'm
And you are in
Akansha.
Pune, right? CPT's College of Engineering, Pune?
No, SEPTA, Ahmedabad, sir, but I am in
Okay, got it.
Mumbai
I'm
right now.
sorry. I apologize. I'm a little bit old vintage, so go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Not a problem. So, right now I'm trying to get into, so I am an architect and urban manager by profession, but right now I've looking at what is happening right now with climate change, and it's a need of an hour right now. So that's how I've started getting more interested towards this. I am trying to get into ESG right now, environment, social governance. So that's how now I know ki climate change is actually turning the economies, like it's hampering the economies. Like we have to change how we earn, learn, and emit that way. So that's how I want to get into climate change right now. So Climate Ninja program excited me because I saw the various tools and various people coming up here and talking, which I think is a great platform. So that's how I'm here. I had one question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
So now we're talking about carbon sequestration and carbon capture and all of those things. Don't you feel that when we are hampering the natural cycle, when we're capturing things, if not done right, it will take a toll on water cycle and all the other natural cycles, because then we are actually playing with the nature after a point of time. We are
I
we
Go ahead,
So
go ahead.
that's my question. Because
Yeah, I
when
think
we control emissions, that one part of it, we are not giving it in the air. But when we start removing things, so again, it might be ki now we are worried that the earth is getting warmer. But if the balance is not right, it might start getting cooler as well. So how responsibly really humans can do that is my take on it.
I think right that will be if so. Akansha, here is two things. I think you brought up a very important thing, that we are playing with the nature. And that's exactly what we started doing when we started burning fossil fuel. We started
Yeah.
playing with the nature, and we've been playing with the nature now for 100 years. So far, the problem was not that severe. But now it has come to a point where still today we are able to, while we do have issues with climate change and everything, but by and large, nothing fundamentally has changed, which has really altered the way of life for everybody. There are some people who are still impacted. But I think that the alarm bells are going on, because now it has reached a point that if we continue this way of life, we don't really change, then there are going to be severe, we can't play with nature anymore. I think we are basically at a point at that. So I think first and foremost thing, what we have to do is we have to emit as less as possible. I think that's where the focus has to be, where we stop playing with, we don't take nature for granted. I think that's the first thing that we need to do, right? The second part, what we need to do is to point is, then we have to see how can we undo some of the damage that we have already done. And then the third level is going to be, if we extract that much of carbon out of the thing, then we are really reaching the point where we will go to an ice age, or some of the things. So things have happened in the past, right? There are reasons for that, and scientists are still trying to study that. But right now, our current problem is the fact that we have taken nature for granted for the last 100 years. I think first what we should do is we should stop taking it for granted. Whatever we can change at an individual level, we try to change. Collectively, we have to recognize this problem and start coming up with some areas where we can tangibly try to move forward. But I think you bring up good points to the table, and we have to be conscious about that. But I think at this point, the problem at hand is slightly different. So if that's okay with you, let me just move to Harsh. His hand is there. Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Akansha.
So
Yeah, go
maybe
ahead.
I'd like to share some of my comments. So I mean, a quick intro. So I am Harsh, and then I've graduated from BITS Pilani. So right now I'm working in an oil and gas company, ExxonMobil. So I mean, I hear about sustainability, climate change all the time, day in and out.
Yeah.
So I mean, some of my comments, again, the tool looks wonderful. So when we kind of like talk about these issues, like what I personally feel, I mean, looking around technology within my company and outside, is like climate change is more of a communication issue than like a technology issue. We have like a good amount of technology right now in place, but yeah, it's about like, do people really understand fundamentally, like I mean, whether it's cost of carbon or cost of capital, or like, are we investing in right places? Do we have the right like return on capital? I mean, with respect to like right choices. So yeah, and the other thing is I like the tool. I mean, because different stakeholders in the industry like talk in different language. I mean, and having such a tool in place, which is like which is such an open source in terms of logic and in terms of methodology. So I believe like it could really like work when, I mean, different stakeholders like come onto a common table, okay, be it government or a private sector or think tanks or maybe academia. So I mean, such a tool is definitely helpful. So yeah, look forward to like playing around with the tool and really simulating a lot of I mean, what we really hear and see. Yeah.
Yeah, and very good, Harsh. Thank you very much. I just want to make one comment, and maybe not really lighthearted, but I mean
Yeah.
it. When I use the word villain part of it, and for fossil fuels, so don't take it literally. I was just trying to kind of
Absolutely.
explain to people what
Yeah.
the good ending should look like, right? So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I
essentially,
know.
and I look, the oil companies have a big role to play. I think
Correct.
that
Yeah.
transition part, I think, like I was telling you, some of the new CCS technologies and other things
Yeah.
will largely come in from the oil companies, right? So
Correct.
they
And
have,
we are
they
leveraging
understand it
our
better.
own, correct. And we are leveraging our own wells to kind of like, I mean, yeah, capture all those carbons or be it saline aquifers. So yeah,
Right.
I do understand. I mean, and I totally take your point with the calibrations. Yeah, because I know people speak in layman language, but I know when it comes to people, comes from people like you, so I do definitely do my calibrations when I take things. Yeah.
Very good. Good. So we have the last. Thank you very much, Harsh. We have the last one from Neeraj. His hand is raised, and then I think we'll end at that because that will hopefully we are at the end of our time as well. So go ahead, Neeraj.
Okay. Sir, my question about, sir,
First,
when we
introduce
talk,
yourself, sir. Just introduce
my name is
quick.
Neeraj Singh Rawat, and I'm from Uttarakhand. Currently, I'm pursuing my bachelor's in environment science from Mizoram.
Okay,
So,
very good.
sir, first question mine is like, how do we see like when we go about like local people? Yeah, if we go about the rural population, how we communicate these things? Because in India, most of the population live in rural India, and they know about climate change, but the basic necessity are different there compared to urban. If you talk about them, you have to do organic farming, natural farming, but they will say paddy will give us more money, they are more lucrative. So how can we scale up about cost, people, and technology, all these things, how we can put together and make good way out of it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you bring a very good point. I mean, like I said, the any there is something called a um, equity consideration, right? Anytime you are coming up with a policy, you have to make sure that you look into what is called as an equity, right? When equity is something that how would everybody get impacted, and when you're looking at a solution, you look at every aspect. You're not just looking at the urban, you're looking at the rural. You have to think through all of the aspects, and that's one of the reasons why for a country like India, one should not tax coal, because coal still a lot of the people, right? I mean, so much so, I don't know, you guys are all young. Literally, when I was born, right? I mean, at least for the first, I would say 5 or 7 years or something, we literally have like a small little place where we use coal in our house as a fuel. And this is my house. I was in, I grew up in a public sector, and my dad went to a public sector company, and we lived in a steel township, but we had like a small thing. So, and still in a lot of other rural places, I mean, it's still coal is used as a fuel, right? So these are the aspects. That's why maybe a carbon tax, and that's one of the reasons why India has not been, India is the last one, because India has a very large population, is significantly higher amount of energy needs. Luckily, India has a coal thing. So to the extent that they would want to kind of use it for their own, like a thermal power plants and for other things and for other steel and cement industry, they would go ahead and use that, right? So there are, so the world recognizes that, and to your point, nobody's going ahead and I think that's there for policy frame, like folks who are coming up with the policies to make sure that all development or all solutions are essentially, you manage the equity consideration, then you try to implement that. But I think that's a very important point, right? So,
Yes, sir.
and
Thank you,
but
sir.
but technically, if you ask me, that's also not much of a problem, right? I mean, on one side, um, the West has obviously the carbon footprint of on a per capita basis is significantly higher. In India, India has a very big range, right? Because India is a very diverse country, right? I mean, you have a lot of people of, the range is very wide on the economic spectrum, right? So you have, super rich, right? So the carbon footprint of the some of the super rich and everything vis-a-vis, if you take a look at it, of a lot of the people, I think the average for India on a per capita basis is, if I'm not mistaken, would be about it's about roughly about 1.8 to 2 tons per annum, and the range would be as low as 0.2 all the way to be maybe about like a 35 or so, whereas like the per capita in the US would be somewhere between 16 to 18 tons per person, depending upon the lifestyle, right? So already to your point, in some of the rural India and others, people are lot of them are already leading a sustainable life. One of the reasons India is very good on recycling, not because our recycling infrastructure is high, but because of economic consideration, because a lot of people depend on it as a source of income. So we are very good with recycling because of economic considerations. So yeah, but that was a good point, Neeraj. So thank you very much. With that,
Thank you, sir.
I think I would like to bring it to closure. Really appreciate the opportunity and your time, and look forward to interacting with some of you at least, as we go forward. And good luck to you guys with your Climate Ninja program and with your professional lives. Ahan, is there anything else that you want me to cover? Or with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to you.
No, we're solid, and I think we covered a lot of ground in a very short time. Uh, I think your experience was there for everyone to see. So thank you very much, Mr. Amit, for taking the time for this once again. And I too am very excited to see the kind of work all of them do with the tool.
Right, very good. And big thanks to Chinmay for helping us with everything, right? So thanks, Chinmay.
Thank you very much, Chinmay.
Okay,
Really
bye,
glad
everybody.
both of you. Goodbye. Have a great day.
Yeah, bye.
Okay, folks. I
I'm
hope, yeah, take your time, no problem.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and leave. Yeah, bye now.
Hey guys, thank you very much again for being a highly interactive bunch, and I hope you guys were very excited to go through this tool. Like personally, for me, the first time I did go through it, it was quite eye-opening, and at the same time, it's almost a gamified way of looking at climate change, because you can just do so much with sliders and visually see what's up with it, right? Um, and a lot of you have shared your thoughts on it. Thank you very much for that and being your interactive selves. We did have a group assignment scheduled for today, but we're way over our time slot. So I think we're okay with making this assignment, proceeding only with the post-session assignment. One thing I will say, I would like to make this assignment associated with the En-ROADS, with the En-ROADS tool mandatory, because it's a great way of understanding the climate crisis at large. So one of your 4 assignments that you do mandatorily do, please include this as a part of it. I will make it a point to upload all the pending assignments and their deadlines by tomorrow evening. But rest assured, the deadlines will be very. I mean, you will get more, at least a week's time to submit each assignment, so do not worry on that front. Um, a lot of doubts from a lot of you on on Discord about various things, the point system, the Discord, so the LinkedIn posts and so on and so forth. I will update you on all of those pointers again by tomorrow evening. So yeah, if you have any questions or anything related to the session you want to share or just hang around and talk, feel free to. Otherwise, we're good to go and you can drop off.